Hi, and thank you for listening to Dream 10X Radio, where we interview people attempting to live extraordinary lives. Our twofold purpose is to both direct and inspire people bold enough to do the same. Dream 10X. Face your fears and make your life count. Welcome to Dream 10X, episode 42. It's your boy JC.
And Dr. Cable.
And checking the mic, make sure it's on. We're all good to go. We bring you this podcast bi-monthly. Is that the correct way to say it? About twice a month. And this is episode 42, and we are trying to talk about how to have big dreams and how to achieve them. And part of reaching big dreams, once you've kind of sketch those big dreams out, is putting a plan in place and then executing that plan in order to get to those big dreams. And so executing the plan is probably one of the most important aspects of achieving big dreams, in our opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's why we've created this podcast and trying to figure out how do other people go about reaching their big dreams and how do they execute the plan that they put in place. And execution is probably one of the most important aspects of achieving big dreams. And so we started a mindfulness series last podcast in Kansas City, mm-hmm. when we were at Cindy's friend's house. And it's becoming more and more clear to me how mindfulness is very important in how you think, how you portray yourself, the energy you put out into a room or a group of people, how you say things, what you say. All of these things are very important, and all of these things kind of tie into mindfulness, and they all kind of segue with execution of your plan to achieve your big scary dreams. And so this week we're talking about a book that I just read called Verbal Judo, and I think this book segues very nicely into the whole theme of mindfulness, because it has to do with being aware of what you say and how you say it. And that aspect of verbal communication is extremely important in how you relate to other people, how you perform sales, how you pitch ideas within your organization, how you come off to your how you appear to your management, the optics of how you present yourself and corporate environment. All of these things are extremely important in terms of your micro execution of your ultimate plan. If that makes any sense. Does that make any sense?
Well, it does to me because we talk about it. So hopefully it makes sense to y'all.
So do you want to talk a little bit, a refresher about mindfulness and why you have a brain sitting on the...
Just my new toy!
What's going on with the brain model?
So, well, first...
Did you call it that? Or
no, they came that way.
Oh, okay.
Something very special about this episode. It is episode number 42.
42.
Which is the answer to life, the use, and everything.
There you go.
Yes.
This is it. This is the most important episode.
So what is the ultimate question? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Right.
For you fellow geeks out there. I have a brain because I'm taking a medical neuroscience class, and as well as a mindfulness certification class, because I want to learn more about how we actually think and work and from a biological perspective, because it helps with the sociological perspective and creating more impactful learning experiences. So we'll see how it goes. Mindfulness overall, though, is very powerful, and again, as everything James said, how we show up. And not just how we show up, but then how we move forward with our daily lives. So recognizing what's going on in our bodies, how we're interacting, and then being able to accept it non-judgmentally and then move forward. So it's a lot about just self-awareness and forgiving yourself and being okay with where you are at the moment and understanding where you are at the moment.
Can you point out the amygdala on here? Is that the brown thing?
Yeah, back here. Well, actually, the prefrontal cortex. So I'm learning. I'm going to probably screw this up totally. The cerebellum is, so the prefrontal cortex is up here. That's our thinking brain. The cerebellum is back here.
Oh, cerebellum is in the back. Mm-hmm. As is your amygdala.
I think that's in the back too. Neuroscientists out there, I'm still learning.
This might be the amygdala right here.
That's the brainstem.
Oh, brainstem.
Yeah. So we're inside here. So this opens up. It's pretty cool. And
I'm gonna throw up.
this was last night's project. There's the inside of the brain. It's super cool.
What is that?
That is the insular. I forgot what it does.
So there are all those components? Is that how the real brain is?
Yeah. And this is the hippocampus, and these are vestibules, and this is my favorite. This is the corpus. Crap. Dang it! It's the piece that connects the right brain and left brain together. And I studied this, like, this is the one piece I was going to remember today.
The Ethernet cable.
The Ethernet cable. This is that. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. So this is helping me digest. And when we talk about learning, you watch a webinar, you're not going to learn it. You actually have to experience it in order to really retain it. So that's why I got the model.
Did you write the label?
I wrote the label.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew what I was doing.
Why are you doing that? Why are you interested in the brain and
neuroscience? It's fascinating how we actually think and how the biology works. So my dissertation was on how we reconnect to nature, and a lot of that was from a neuroscience perspective and genetics perspective, because in biocultural evolution, how we evolve today directly affects both the culture that happened in the biology. So for example, one of the primary examples is like people that are allergic to milk. So we're the only species on the planet that drink milk as adults. Curious. And some people have lactose intolerance because we aren't supposed to drink milk, but we started that. Also, glasses. I find glasses really interesting. Like, how did that evolve? And back in the day, did people who didn't see very well get eaten by the tigers because they didn't know where they were going or didn't know what plants they were looking at, or how did they experience? But we have glasses today, and so that's just one genetic defect that never got called out. You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, I'm just interested in your train of thought. So hopefully I can learn from you, because from an artificial intelligence, learning about artificial intelligence and kind of the parallels that the technology is drawing with biology, I'm interested to hear more about what you learned about the brain. Mm-hmm. So thank you for studying that, because I don't have time. Before we get going into talking a little bit about verbal judo, I wanted to read, I found a great obituary in the Wall Street Journal this past weekend that segues really nicely with what we're talking about here in terms of emotional intelligence and EQ and all that stuff. So this woman was a professor at Wharton University Business School there. Her name was Sigal Barsad, or Barsade, something like that. And she just passed away of a brain tumor. She was 56 years young. And just really caught my eye. I just loved reading about her life and how she thought about things and how she tried to always be positive. And that's one thing I'm really trying to work on in my own life is being more positive about everything, even when I don't feel that way, because I'm generally a very negative person. So trying to be positive is something I'm working on. I just wanted to read a little bit of her obituary because it's very apropos. She says, we literally catch emotions from one another like viruses. Mm-hmm. And she's talking about why it's so important to be as positive as possible, especially in the workplace, your corporate environment, because our enthusiasm or our lack thereof is very contagious and will spread it through an organization.
Mirror neurons.
Yeah. What she said. She says, bosses can't prevent this emotional contagion. They should try to encourage positive emotions while dealing with problems generating negative ones. She advised leaders to pay especial close attention to the emotional signals they emit through facial expressions, body language, and other habits. Mm-hmm. And that segues really great with what you're always talking about in regards to digital body language. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about digital body language and why that's so important now?
So Erica DeJuan, she's amazing. She was ahead of her time because she's like, all right, we're starting to work in a virtual world, and it's how we show up virtually. And she wrote a whole book about it called Digital Body Language, strongly recommend it. And then the pandemic hit. And then everybody's like, oh crap, this is so relevant now, even though it was relevant before. Now, like, people really embraced it. So it's literally how we show up online. If you turn your camera on or off in a meeting, that sends a message. For real.
I always have my camera on.
If you never leave your camera on, that's a message.
What is the message that, when I turn my camera off, what message am I?
It depends.
It's generally negative, right?
It could be negative. Like, I have 2 coworkers I've never seen.
I just don't like seeing my face on the screen.
So that's pretty cool. There's tips and techniques for that. Like, so you can have a focus where you're like not even on the screen in most of the softwares. And some people, it's easier for them to talk. Like, if they are seeing themselves. And it's interesting too, like what they found from a neurological perspective is that when you're on the camera, even if there's other people on the screen, you're always going to be drawn to your own image.
Right.
Which is fascinating to me.
I don't like that.
Yeah. So, but you can block that. You can turn that off. We can work on the software piece of it. I'll teach you software. So yeah, digital body language. Who you CC on an email sends a message. Who you put first on an email sends a message. How quickly you respond. What you say, do you use emoticons? Do you use exclamation points or not? The Seinfeld episode, that's actually real.
Yeah.
So there's a Seinfeld episode where the guy wrote down a phone message and he didn't put an exclamation mark and she got really upset. But that's seriously how, like, we interpret stuff. So everything we do, people are interpreting what you're saying. So it's a little bit different perspective. So that's digital body language in this day and age is huge, how we show up virtually.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the point where it's just analysis paralysis. I don't know what to type and how this person's going to interpret it, but...
What message do you want to send? Just being intentional again about what message you want to send.
Yeah, thank you. That's very, very cogent. Going on into this obituary, I just want to read this real quick because I just love how she looked at life. Little acts of kindness and support can add up to an emotional culture characterized by caring and compassion. Her studies showed that a healthy emotional culture, a work culture, enhanced employee performance, satisfaction, and teamwork while reducing burnout and absenteeism. Her husband, we talked about in the last episode how when people flip you off in traffic, how you need to shut down your amygdala as quickly as you can and not react and try to recklessly drive to compete with them or prove a point or whatever.
Also a Seinfeld episode.
Seinfeld has a lot of great lessons. We should go watch that again. And her husband, Jonathan Barsade, said of her in driving in traffic that she would often consider the other person must be in some kind of emergency or something like that. And that's why they were driving recklessly. So that was her first response to reckless driving. Is, they must be going to an emergency. I thought that was interesting. A default thought about why somebody, assuming the best intentions.
Assuming positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard to do.
It is very hard to do, especially for me. Workers in units with strong cultures of compassionate love, she found, showed greater job satisfaction and provided better care. She reported similar findings from surveys of employees in other industries. Her message showed that emotional intelligence isn't the softer side of business, he said, but actually a core part of being successful. So I hear you talk about this stuff all the time. I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing, but now that I'm seeing how important it is in a business setting, I'm like, it's critical. It's absolutely critical that you be aware of these skills and how to wield them, I guess.
Because in one fell swoop, you can completely crush a team. And then it takes somebody to bring them back up again.
Yeah.
Bring them back up takes a lot longer.
She advised executives to monitor their moods. If it's not one that will be useful to your team, change it, she said. One trick she added is to change your facial expression to the one you would have if you were happy. Regardless of how you're feeling.
It tricks the brain.
Just smile.
I love her.
Really interesting. And then finally, my favorite quote, and this is the end of the obituary, is, emotions aren't noise, she often said, they're data.
Love her.
Man, awesome. And thank you for your life. And reading your obituary is amazing. It really touched me, and it really segues nicely with what we're talking about, what we're trying to learn. And so awesome.
Yeah, definitely a role model there.
Just wanted to point that out. Okay, so now I just wanted to get into the top 5 takeaways from verbal judo. So what you say and how you say it is very important. And so that's why this book is important. This book was written by a former police officer, so he had to deal with the public a lot and had to learn how to diffuse a lot of angry situations. And so he provides a lot of key takeaways and knowledge from his experiences in working with a very unruly public. So what better person to teach you how to, talk about amygdala hijack and dealing with that situation and how to respond verbally. Okay, there's so much I could talk about here. So first of all, the book uses Judo to kind of describe and explain how you verbally communicate in order to diffuse a situation or to have a positive conversation with somebody. So why Judo? So Judo means in Japanese the gentle way, and basically it's a martial art that teaches one to use the momentum and force of your opponent against them. Mm-hmm. And so I took Judo in college.
Did you really?
For 1 year, my freshman year. And my favorite moves were the Hizaguruma.
Okay.
And so basically you twist your opponent and you trip them by putting your leg on their knee, and you kind of do a knee sweep on them and you throw them down. So I got pretty good at that. And then Hanegoshi, I can't say it right, Hanegoshi, where you do it's basically a hip toss. So you grab their gi and you do a hip toss and you throw them over. And that was my absolute favorite. Because there's just something about throwing an opponent over your hip and having them land flat on their back that's so fulfilling.
I can see that.
But it took me a while to get those moves. My sensei was my classmate. He was a black belt, Ian Pinkerton, and he would use me as the model to show all the different things, and it always resulted in me getting choked out. I hated that guy. But anyway, I found out that a great way to defeat an opponent is to never wash your gi.
Gross.
So, yeah, I stumped to high heaven every time I was to practice, so nobody wanted to wrestle me. So, victory! Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, that's what Judo is all about, the gentle way of fighting opponent. So that's why the book is named that. So I thought that was a really interesting thing about the book. That was one of my key takeaways. Interesting also that it was written by a police officer, and the Tokyo police force or whatever uses Judo as their primary martial art.
I love that. That's fantastic.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Japanese connections here, obviously. So number 2, top takeaways here were 11 things that you should never say to somebody. 11 things you should never say to somebody.
Interesting.
And I just kind of chuckled about pretty much all 11 in the context of marriage. But anyway, the first one is come here. See?
Yeah, that's probably the reaction you would
That's
get to me.
funny. I don't know why. Number 2, you wouldn't understand.
Yep.
In the context of marriage, I don't know, this is just really funny. But these are things you shouldn't say to anybody ever, I guess. Number 3, because those are the rules.
Oh.
Number 4, it's none of your business. Number 5, what do you want me to do about it? Number 6, calm down.
Oh, calm down is the worst, because you need to have the other person name the emotion. Like, I sense you're feeling frustrated or whatever, instead of calm down, because that just totally takes, woo! Yeah.
And which is funny, because I think people who are good at rhetoric and getting people spun up know that.
Oh, yeah. Like all of
I've known people who are like, dude, just calm down. Just to spin you up, get you spun up. 7, what's your problem? That's another one. What's your problem, dude? Number 8, you never, or you always.
Yeah.
That's a good marriage one. Number 9, I'm not going to say this again. 10, I'm doing this for your own good.
All of these are making initial, total reaction in my stomach. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. 11, why don't you be reasonable? So
That's
never say those to anybody. those 11 phrases. Okay, number 3. Sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will break our hearts.
That's true.
So it's the realization, take away from the book, the realization that what we say and how we say it to people it can be really uplifting and a positive thing, or it can be devastating, absolutely devastating, more than getting physically hurt.
Oh, yeah. It actually causes social pain, and
yeah.
like rejection causes social pain. But Advil does help, curiously, they found. Because your body,
Really?
your body has the same reaction to it, that physical pain. And so, like, the Advil, like, helps to numb a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
It causes physical pain. Yeah. Yeah, his quote is, "Words cut deeper and their wounds fester longer than traumas of the sword. That's why we need to be trained to speak effectively." So, very important aspect there. Okay, number 4, the Japanese term mushin. Mushin in samurai warfare is a state of mind defined as a still center. And so the English equivalent is kind of disinterested. Not uninterested, but disinterested. You act like what's going on doesn't affect you at all. You're calm through the storm. You're calm through the storm, and things aren't bothering you. And I thought it was interesting that here is yet another business book that uses Japanese terminology in it to help buttress, core concepts that it's talking about. And I look back at some of our other podcasts. In episode 40 in Purple Cow, we learned about the word otaku.
Yeah.
And how the otaku are the idea sneezers, or the alpha nerds, people who are very interested in a very niche area, and who, when they learn about new things, are very willing to tell other people about it. The otaku, we learned about that in episode 40 when we talked about Purple Cow. Episode 30 and some other book, where we talked about the talent code, and books before that have all mentioned kaizen, the Japanese word kaizen, which is all about self-improvement, continuous improvement. Maybe not self-improvement, but continuous improvement. Through all aspects of your life. And so, anyway, I just thought it was interesting. Here's another book mentioning a Japanese term. So we got Mushin, Otaku, and Kaizen so far that we've been picking out of these books. So that was number 4, Mushin, be a samurai warrior, be calm, don't let the storm bother you. And then finally, number 5, how you verbally communicate something is more important than what you communicate. So,
90% of what people data process, is what they see, hear, feel, sense, whatever. What you say is less meaningful.
Yeah. So I'm screwed, because I do not have good verbal communication skills. Now,
for example, ich liebe dich! Right? Means I love you in the German, but it sounds very angry.
Yeah, you made the point very well. All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so elements of voice are important, and they include your tone, the pace at which you say something, the pitch, and the modulation. I'm not sure what modulation means, but I guess how nervous your voice is.
Could be.
You could come off sounding nervous, and that kind of throws people off too.
Yeah.
Pitch, if you're like very anxious or whatever, and you're talking very high, that's a key indicator. The pace at which you say something. So the police officers would be very in tune to how you're responding to their questions and stuff in order to determine, well, is this person really telling the truth or not? That's
interesting because, I'm getting my mindfulness certification, and I have a tendency to talk very fast and excited. And for leading somebody through a mindful exercise, it doesn't really work. And so Lena, my coach, told me to talk like it feels very awkward. And then people's brains will keep up with you and process. Like, oh, wow, so I feel like I talk like that. Like, very much in slow motion. It's interesting, but it's not. So, yeah. Piper's joining us.
I keep thinking of the way you try to encourage the dog to go outside.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll say, all right, let's go outside, and she won't move, and then you'll go, come on, Piper, let's go outside, come on! She runs out the back door. She's ready to go. So
I do the same thing with my team.
Yeah, proof of point right there. He says a mediocre idea brilliantly presented often gains acceptance, whereas a brilliant idea badly presented often dies in birth. So
it's true.
That made me think a little bit about how I present ideas. It's going to be key in sales too, right? You gotta how you present in a sale is going to be much more important than what you say in a sales pitch. So
that's very true.
This also made me think about rhetoric. He brings up the term rhetoric, and rhetoric is basically how you go back and my interpretation of it was like thinking back in college or whatever when you have a lot of banter and each other would try to put each other down as quickly as possible and have the
like
best
your mama jokes.
Your mom was so fat her belt size is equator or something like that. Yeah. And I could never come up with it. I'd be like, yeah.
Your face has a smell on it.
Yeah, I was horrible at it. I couldn't do it. But if it came to writing,
you're a brilliant writer.
I'd flip you on your butt, man, from a writing perspective. But from verbally, I have no verbal judo. I have no game.
But you're cute.
So anyway, that's verbal judo. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in March.